you have ventured out and found your own ways to be successful outside of sort of the standard paradigm of making a living for oneself. Um, how do you think about, this issue of what all of us would call the rat race, or the fact that everyone is sort of by virtue of really the economic structure that we're embedded within, not everyone, but the vast majority of people don't have as many options as far as controlling their time and what they do on a daily basis. And obviously the internet and various tools that come along with that have done a lot to free up more people to have different opportunities for creating those things. But how do you think about, what we're calling the creator economy, or various iterations, even decentralized organizations like yours, or like Gumroad's one of the bigger ones? We are, especially with the acceleration of at-home work caused by the pandemic, it does seem like this trajectory is not only where we're going inevitably, but also it seems to be going much faster, which I think is good for all of us who would like to get out of having someone else, control our every minute of every day. How do you think about the future of work?
Yeah, great question. I think the big headline is about meaning and connection. So it seems to me so far from my life experience that one of the things that makes a good life is a sense of meaningful work. And that doesn't have to be a job, it just means that when you have a role that you feel fits your competence, and where you feel that you're making a meaningful contribution, that seems to be an essential quality of life factor, So at the moment, I get a lot of my meaning from feeling like I've got something unique to add to the questions about organizations. Maybe when I'm 95, my meaning will be getting up out of my rocking chair and watering the plants every couple of days, and that'll be as much as I can contribute, but I can still see how that would be a satisfying contribution, So that concept of meaningful work to me is really one of the essential pillars of it. And what I'm trying to illustrate there is that it's also very subjective, that it's up to me to figure out what's meaningful to me. It's local to my own competencies, and it's relevant to the people around me as well. It's kind of a relation with the other people around me of, I want to contribute something to something that's bigger than me. I want to be a node in a network. I don't want to just build a little empire for myself, but I want to be connected with others. And that connection piece is, I think about it in terms of like mutual aid and solidarity. So my context coming from New Zealand, I have that sort of big picture mutual aid of growing up in a country that has a little bit of socialism left in it. So that meant I could count on having a bare minimum of income paid to me when I didn't have a job. And a lot of my friends were in a similar circumstance. We were getting this little trickle of money from the government. And it was because of that we could afford to take the risk to start Lumio. That there was a time where we weren't getting any income from this venture that we were dreaming up, but we were getting paid in the background from the state, and that just covered our bare living expenses, and it gave us the freedom to iterate. So the freedom to experiment. So when I started traveling around the world and being in countries where there isn't that kind of social safety net, it really reset my expectations a little bit, because it made me realize how much creativity that enables, knowing that you're not going to lose your house or go hungry just because you don't have a job for a little while, a paying job. I don't think that, for instance, people in the States are going to somehow pull a political maneuver and suddenly have a great socialized welfare system where everyone is looked after. I don't think that's a very likely short-term goal, but a more realistic short-term goal is getting that kind of solidarity at a smaller scale. So maybe you're not going to get the whole country organized, but maybe you can find 30 people who are in a similar context to you, and you can pool some of your resources and take care of each other, whether that's the concrete financial support or it's the more sort of emotional, psychological stuff of, yeah, I'm participating in this like creator economy, gig economy, precarious. I'm one of these precarious workers. Maybe we can support each other just through the process of what is it like to be one of those workers, and how do you deal with that insecurity, and how do we get support. So that's what we've been doing with the Enspiral network, is basically a bunch of independent workers coalescing together into these little clusters. And there's the kind of low level support of, we have conversations about what it's like to be a freelancer, and we share tips with each other, we share opportunities, and how do you be productive when you don't have a boss, and these kind of questions. But then the deeper engagement is when you really get to know a couple of people and you build up a relation of trust, and you see that you've got complementary skills. We basically form into these very lightweight worker cooperatives. We call them a livelihood pod. And the pod is a space where you can share some of your income with each other to take out the peaks and troughs of being an autonomous worker. So you get something a bit more like a salary, because we're sharing the load with each other. And that, I don't know how realistic that is, or if we're just a little marginal case with a couple of hundred people, who like doing these kind of experiments. But I would love it if that was the future of work, was that you have the meaning piece where people are doing stuff that seems useful, and they feel their heart is engaged somehow, and they're not just doing it because they have to and they've got no other option but to do some task that feels really menial to them. And that they have the solidarity, that they're in collaboration with other people, that they're sharing the highs and lows and growing together through that process. That would be a pretty awesome future for me.